The journey of spiritual formation is a journey of change, of transformation through the guidance of the Holy Spirit. So let's grow some deep roots of faith and join together for the next 40 days of soul searching, transforming, life-giving work, responding to God's call and exploring our life of faith.
Welcome back to session 5 of your Lenten series, and I hope by this time that you're really having some success and some feelings of the transformation that's going on inside of you. Last time we looked at the whole question of grudging and forgiving, so I want to come back to some of the questions that I raised for you just to reignite that. Was there any transformation that took place around the feelings of slights and then the movement into either wanting to get even, have revenge, those kinds of things? What we're saying for transformation's sake is own that is who you are in those moments. It does not mean that you have to do that. It just means that that's who you are in those moments. I think just owning that is redemptive from the standpoint of it gives you a choice about what you want to do about it now that you know about it. The other thing about that is in the slights, many times there's a tendency for us to give away our worth to other people. In other words, they slighted us so they didn't think we're worthwhile. If we go way back to the first sessions that we talked about, in the first session was that no, we are worthy. We're given worth. So no one can take your worth. So the deal would be here, just be aware of the fact that the slights are there and you feel something. And then again, as we've said before, with free will, you get to choose what you want to do about that. Do you want to move to the side of grudging, or do you want to move to the side of forgiveness? Today, our work is really a movement between 2 points, between the point of stress and peace. And what I want to do with that is I want to go back and talk about the whole notion of stress first. Hans Selye was a professor in Toronto who studied stress. And the whole point of his study was no one can lead a stressless life. Stress is a part of life. Now, the other thing that we know about stress is not, this is a stressful environment, this is a stressful relationship, this is a stressful job, because that's the externalization of the stress. It's how you feel. The stress is how you feel about that job, how you feel about that relationship, how you feel about that environment. So again, it's an inside thing, and that's good because that's also where the transformation can take place. Now, what Selye was talking about is there's good stress and then there is distress. We literally need stress. If we don't have stress, then we don't adapt. If we don't adapt, we don't grow. Now, what's the difference between eustress and distress? I think a difference is, again, how you see it and how you're going to choose to use it. In eustress, there's usually a goal that you set in order to work with that. And then you set about meeting that goal. And you start to deal with the stress. Now, what we know is growth comes from the stress, because if we are not adapting, then we're not growing. And in Adlerian psychology, adapting is one of the marks of normal people. Normal people adapt to difficulties. Distress, on the other hand, again, there's usually that component of fear, and there's also that component of, I think I'm going to be discovered here as less than or inferior to others. And so therefore, I'm dealing with the stress and the anxiety of that discovery. The thing about the eustress then is, if we're going to look at this kind of boldly, then what you have is two different movements. The eustress is we're working at overcoming the minus. And in the distress, we're probably hiding from the minus situation. So again, we have a choice to make. Do we want to set about overcoming that and using the stress in that manner, or do we want to set about hiding and using the stress in that manner? Now, given the spirituality of this particular program, I think the thing that I picked for the spiritual point of emphasis is what we would call in the Western Church the Triduum. So the Triduum, the 3 days, where we look at Thursday, Friday, and then Sunday. And what I want to do is I want to walk through those in terms of the stress. So if we go to Thursday, what do we have? Well, we have the supper. We have Jesus talking and Jesus instituting the Eucharist. And communion with the others. But also in that supper, we have betrayal. Very distressful. How is Jesus dealing with that betrayal? Then the next movement is from that table, we go to the garden. This is a very stressful situation for Jesus. Jesus is now faced with what his mission is, the culmination of his mission. And is he going to remain true? And he's talking with God about it, that stressful discussion about, can you remove this? Does this have to happen? And then finally, resolved by, okay, I will do this. And in that scene, then we have the next distressful situation, which is now he's bombarded by these people coming to take him. And then they take him off, and we have another distressful situation. We have the judgment, but we also have the brutalization of Jesus. And so he's in that very stressful position. Then we know he's taken off, crucified, and all the discussion there is distressful. The wondering, the doubting. Are you there? What happened? Why did you leave me? All those questions are there. And the death, the entombment, the quiet, and then the resolution of it all. And he remains steady, and I would consider that to be a eustress, that whole ordeal was Jesus dealing with that as a eustress, because it moves toward a goal and it moves toward his mission. And the outcome of it, he's overcome death, and he's overcome death for us. So as you're out there this week, I'd like you to be aware of your stress. And then again, how are you handling that? What's the fear behind it? What's the fear that's involved in the stress? And then how do you choose to do that? Are you going to overcome it, or are you going to want to hide from it? again, we have these fundamental choices. It goes back to what we talked about in terms of having free will. So in closing, what I want to say is I've really enjoyed doing this with the staff and the folks at Prince of Peace, and I wish you a great, great Easter, and may you feel resurrected.